Thank God it's Friday. And this morning I have very interesting stories to share with us. And for the first part of the show, I will just briefly, in just about 5 minutes, read to you major stories from 5 different Nigerian newspapers. And for the second part of the show, Winifred is already in the studio with her guest to do justice to these stories. My name is Tion Joseph. I am your regular host. To begin with, this morning, let's look at Leadership newspaper. Leadership is our most influential newspaper in Nigeria. Now, on the front page of Friday's publication, you will see APC Muslim ticket, Dogara, Achuba, 60 others disown Babachi over support for Obi. Says he can't speak for group to make position public soon. The next bullet says we can't force anyone to support our candidate, Labour Party. The very last bullet on leadership this morning says Atiku Tinubu take campaign to Kwara Ebonyi. That is what we have on the front page of leadership this morning. You can find more stories on our website. Just hop on to www.leadership.ng and you will be served. Having said that, we now move to the Punch. The lead story on the Punch this morning says electronic result transmission, beware of fraud. Opposition warns INEC, APC recants. The first bullet says Electoral Commission under pressure over beavers, says PDP. The next bullet says APC has hidden agenda on 2023 elections, Labour Party alleges. And the very last bullet will be taken says, I am concerned about poor telecoms network, says Adamu. That is what we have on the Punch this morning. That takes us to The Guardian. And on The Guardian this morning, the lead story says decline in oil, gas output hampers growth amid recession fears. And the one and only bullet we have on The Guardian this morning says Nigeria in technical recession, says experts. That is what we'll be taking on The Guardian. We move briskly to The Nation. The lead story on The Nation this morning says NNPCL, marketers differ over lingering petrol scarcity. And the first bullet, and the one and only bullet there says queues lengthen in Lagos, Abuja, others. That takes us to the last paper we'll be reviewing before I hand over to Winifred. We'll look at Vanguard. The Daily Vanguard this morning says brain drain. We now have one doctor to 6,400 patients, medical experts. This is alarming, I must say. Says Nigeria in emergency situation. 38.7% of Nigerians suffer healthcare depreciation, says NBS report. As NMA asks FG to act fast. Thank you for staying tuned for the first part of the show. We crave your indulgence to do same for the second part of the show. I'll be back your way 10 a.m. on Monday morning. My name is Tion Joseph. Do have a great weekend.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Good morning. Welcome to the last edition of Inside Nigeria on Leadership Television. Thank God it's Friday. My name is Winifred Ogbebo, your regular host on the program. With me in the studio is a public affairs analyst, Dayo Omogun. Dayo,
Thank you very much for having me this
on the
morning.
program. Yes,
Good morning, viewers.
For our regular review and discussion today, we have Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership. We have THISDAY. We have The Punch, The Nation, The Guardian, and Vanguard newspapers, all for review and discussion this Friday. Don't go away, stay tuned. We are flagging up with Nigeria's only Friday newspaper, Leadership Friday. APC Muslim ticket, Dugara Achuba, 6 others disown Babachi over support for Obi. APC Muslim ticket, Dugara Achuba, 6 others disown Babachi over support for Obi. Says he can't speak for group to make position public soon. We can't force anyone to support our candidate, Labour Party. Atiku Tinubu take campaign to Kwara, Ebonyi. That's the leading story on Leadership Friday. Same, let's go to THISDAY. THISDAY also has similar story. THISDAY newspaper, THISDAY says, at Kwara rally, Atiku laments APC's misrule, pledges to revive Kainji Dam. At Kwara rally, Atiku laments APC's misrule, pledges to revive Kainji Dam. Says oil discovery in North healthy for development. Yes.
Yeah.
This is campaign period.
Yeah, sure.
However, these are leadership's leading story was the one trending as at yesterday's evening, because earlier we saw a report that Babachi Lawa, former SGF, was pledging support for and asking his supporters to support Peter Obi. However, the former Speaker, House of Reps, came out again, that is Yakubu Dogara, saying that they are not supporting Labour Party, that they will make their position known very soon. What do you see about the recant alliances and what
if you
are
ask
not?
me, it shows, first of all, it's an indication that that group is not really together.
Yeah.
And because a house divided against itself cannot stand, and already it's in a minority, it's a small group, and if that small group can't hold its own together, then it's an indication that we might be hearing even of a lot more things falling apart in that particular group, because it's too early in the day, if you ask me, and it's too also late. It's too early in their formation. It's also too late in the national dynamics for you to have this kind of squabbles and all that. So I expect that this is a time that they should be perfecting their strategy. But if you're losing one person and the other person is saying, then it's not good for them at all.
You know, these Muslim APCs, Muslim ticket that actually forged their alliances, and of course, both of them were solely vested over the APC's presidential and nomination Muslim ticket.
You see, what is playing out validates.
Tinubu, the APC presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, did say that all of them wanted to be his running mate. Only that he didn't agree to that, and of course that's what caused the rumblings. So, do you think they had actually the clout to cause an upset to APC?
The thing is, for someone who is contesting,
the Christian majority
for someone who's contesting, you don't want to play with whether somebody has clout or not, because a few votes can turn the tide against you. So I won't want to really say that they have the clout to pull an upset or not. But the point remains that what's playing out confirms what people say, that politicians are only concerned about their own interests at any point in time. I would have expected that if Babachir, Yakubu Dugara, and a few other persons have been able to come down on the basis of their disdain, their rejection of the Muslim ticket, what has changed now that has already brought about a break in the group. Nothing has really changed.
Yes,
So
nothing
they
has
should
changed.
have been together as one strong force. But when they begin to think that their individual interests are not going to be covered, then they begin to make further arrangements. They begin to plot new graphs and begin to set new. That's what I think is playing out, because ordinarily one would have thought that Babachir and Yakubu Dugara should be able to work together. They come from the same party. Originally they came from there. They are Christians, and then from the same bloc, the regional this thing.
One is from Adamawa, the other one is from Bauchi.
Exactly. So one would have thought that should help them to move. But when any one of them senses that his interest is not likely to be taken care of by the coalition, they begin to make other moves. And I think that's what is playing out. And it's unfortunate, because who exactly is supposed to speak for the group when the Dogara says he's not qualified to speak for the group? And then who have they appointed to speak for the group? Then they should appoint someone to speak for the group, so that we can know when we hear from this person is speaking on behalf of the coalition.
From Dogara's response, as if there's part also.
Oh, sure, that's what I'm saying. So it's like if one person feels that, man, it looks as if I'm not going to be in charge here, or my position, my interest is not going to be covered here, then they begin to think of other things. That's what I think is playing out. Apparently, Babachir has sized it up and looked at it that, look, I will not be under Dogara, maybe something like that. And then even if I agree to be under him, are my interests covered here? And then and maybe there are other things they're discussing and it's not working. There might be, don't be surprised, there might be persons within the group who say, please, let's just go back to where we're coming from. It's very possible. Because the devil is better than the angel that you don't know anything about. So that might be some of the issues that are on the table, and so we'll see a whole lot of all these alignments and realignments and all kinds of
this goes by.
Yes, as we get closer to the elections, because interests they are thinking beyond me. What happens to me? I don't want to be in the lodge. I don't want to be in limbo. I want to be relevant. For politicians, especially politicians, particularly in our time, they crave relevance, perpetual relevance. They crave wealth continuously, whether other people die in the process.
They don't care.
They don't give a damn. And so these are the things that drive them. And once they feel that the dynamics are not suitable to them, you see them, they begin to do all kinds of things. It's not about you and I. It's not about anybody on the street. It's not about the nation. It's about them.
The reason why Nigerians should not kill themselves for any politicians.
That's it.
Because election is just how many days close by? Less than 90 days. And it's an advice to every Nigerian. You see that many people are turned enemies because of interest, political aspirant they are trying to support. Now let's move over to Punch. Punch has a similar story centered on INEC. INEC. Punch newspaper, the Punch. Electronic result transmission. Beware of fraud. Opposition wants INEC. APC recants. Electronic result transmission. Beware of fraud. Opposition wants INEC. APC recants. Electoral Commission under pressure over Rivers PDP. APC has hidden agenda on 2023 elections. Labour Party alleges. I'm concerned about poor telecoms network, says Adamu, APC's national chairman. Electronic result transmission, beware of fraud. Opposition wants INEC. APC recants. Electoral Commission under pressure over Beavers PDP. APC has hidden agenda on 2023 elections. Labour Party alleges. I'm concerned about poor telecoms network, says Adamu.
I think that there are desperate politicians
at
who are worried.
A forum yesterday, the APC national chairman did say that he was worried that electricity is also another issue that would impinge on the electronic result transmission. So, but what is happening?
I do know that,
and there have been reports that INEC chair was under pressure to jettison electronic result transmission, or in the alternative, have him removed. You know, there have been some reports
Yeah, there
saying
have been
that
such,
even from
that's
Festus
correct.
Okoye saying that it must go through due process. You can't just remove INEC national chairman. You know, for him to be saying this,
there will be certain undercurrents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what is happening here?
I think that there are desperate politicians who are concerned that their chances are a lot slimmer with the introduction of this technology.
Yes.
The beavers thing and all that. So, and in fact, consistently in the last few weeks, we have had this kind of talk, particularly from the ruling party. So it shows you that they feel pressured that this could expose their weakness as a party. And I mean, it also says to a large extent, because if you are the ruling party and you have the power of incumbency, you should be a lot more relaxed and a lot more confident about your chances. Exactly. And if you have done well, all you need to sell what you have done already, sell your performance. We have done this, we promised this, and we're able to deliver this. We say we'll give you 20,000 megawatts instead of 20,000. We're giving you 35,000 megawatts, and so on and so forth. If that were the case, and so it's easier for the incumbent to campaign much more than someone you do that's just coming into the fray. So, but when you find that it's the ruling party that is troubled about the new innovations, then it says something, it says a lot. Again, when you put that side by side by the growing popularity of a particular candidate, and then whose support base are very technology savvy.
And
it begins to send shivers to the
I also
spines
want
of
to
such
take
persons.
you back a little. You remember when the Electoral Act, when it was just a bill in the National Assembly, they actually had it removed.
Exactly. Yes, they did.
If not for the
persistence of
well-meaning Nigerian CSOs.
Exactly. They had it removed. They brought up all kinds of controversies, all kinds of to try to remove it, but no.
So they just had to bow to pressure at the end of the day.
I have my fears also, because the last time in 2019, you'll recall that this is how they said they were going to use electronic results, and then at the last minute, INEC chickened out. If you remember, INEC chickened out, and then I hope that same thing that same scenario does not play out.
We have this in the Electoral Act.
Yes, but I mean, in that time, didn't we have something about it wasn't that pinpoint specific, but now I think it's clear here.
Yes, it's clear.
But when did we start being very law abiding?
I remember that's what they used in Ekiti, used in Edo State.
Yes, agreed.
Used in Anambra.
I agree. But the point is that we have a nation where even if they were to break the law now, I'm sorry. I mean, at the worst case, we'll get into some protracted court case, and at the end, the powers that be might have their way. Because again, Nigerians, we don't really stand and demand what belongs to us. We're easily swayed, either swayed by money or ethnic affiliations, all those kind of things. And so by the time they know the drums to play for us, and they know the kind of dance that they'll get. And so they use this all the time. They use divide and rule and all that. So for me, I just pray that first of all, that INEC will not chicken out, that they will insist that this is what is in the Electoral Act, and that they're going to play by that. And now, when somebody begins to give excuses of electricity, whose fault? If you have had opportunity to do something about the electricity and you don't do it, then you are also complicit in the problem.
Besides, this excuse is supposed to come from the opposition.
But from the opposition, that's what I'm saying. How are we going to be sure that? Again, I think that if there are banks in almost every corner of this nation, then you can also, elections are just a few days events. And so whatever you need to power the booths or whatever, I think that we can get it done. It's a question of determination. It's a question of, are we really keen on having the best elections so far? I think that's the point. And again, it's an opportunity to say to Nigerians that, look, your destiny is in your hands. You must ensure that this thing is not frustrated again this time around. I think we all have a responsibility, a duty to say that this time around, we want this to work. And if we do, and if we insist, not necessarily by being violent, but by insisting that, look, this is what we want. And then we have had cases all over the world where people disagreed and then it wasn't violent. In India, it's the classical case how they were able to overthrow the colonialists without violence and all that. So we can do these things, but we need to constantly have it at the back of our minds that our destiny is in our hands. We can't continue to play with our destiny and then come and complain after a few years, because it's a once in 4 years opportunity. 4 years opportunity to elect who. I mean, so we are all part of this recruitment process, and this is a new era. Exactly. And so if we all embrace it and use it, then we can all be proud. Because if we don't, it won't be anybody's fault. It will be your fault for not partaking. It will be your fault for not insisting on the most basic of the levels of electioneering practice. So it's up to us. It's up to us as the people of Nigeria to say, look, this is what we want. If we needed to power anywhere, we know what to do. We know we take generators there, we power it and ensure that it is done for that period. And it's not a month-long program. No, it's about 2 days, 3 days, and then it's done.
Another thing I want to also ask is that President Muhammad Buhari has always reiterated that his need that to leave a legacy of a free election before he leaves office.
See,
you think he will come through?
Yeah, I think that at a point, shortly before people exit office, they become very sane. They come to themselves. You know, I mean, the Bible says in Luke 15, when talking about the prodigal son, it says that he came to himself. That is, he woke up. Whatever it was that was beclouding his reasoning and vision was removed. He came to himself. So at a point, every leader comes to himself, especially towards the end, and looks at it and says, I've spent 8 years. I've spent 7 years. By the time I leave here, it will be 8 years. And I promise this, and I promise this, and I promise this. I mean, you'll recall that about a month ago, the president was issuing all kinds of executive orders and saying the things that they couldn't achieve in 7 years that it must be achieved in 5 months. And I laughed. I came here. I was here on one of those occasions, and I said, look, that's laughable. How do you intend to achieve what you could not achieve in 7 years? You want to achieve it in 5 years. But you see, it shows you that they are now at a point where they know that, wow, 5 months is here already. Tomorrow is here already. Tomorrow is now. What will I be telling my grandchildren? How will I explain after office? After office, all the paraphernalia of office will no longer be there. I'll no longer have all the escorts where they clear all the road for me to pass. I'll go to the mosque, even though I'll still have some security around me. It won't be the way it used to be. So there will be people who could, heckle you and say, "Oga, see you now. Light will not get." You know, so they come to their own and begin to sit back and get really serious with themselves. And I think that's what's happening right now. So, and I think that whatever he can do now, he will want to. Because look at it in the last few weeks. Look at how very consistently the bandits have been bombarded.
Yes.
I mean, that should tell you that somebody is concerned. That's something that could have been done a year, 2 years, 3 years back. But it also shows you that when some people say that there probably was some complicity, then their argument is plausible. Now, how come what is being done in the last few weeks couldn't be done a lot earlier? So someone is sitting down somewhere and saying, God, even between you, your conscience and your God, and saying, when I leave here, what will I say? So I think that a lot is on the president to ensure that the legacy he promised, that he delivers on it. And I think that I believe that he will not tinker, he will not tamper with the system. I believe so.
Nigerians are also expressing worry that even though the president has said he was going to deliver on a free and fair election as his legacy to Nigerians, that many people are still of the opinion, expressing worries that some of these people surrounding Mr. President will actually go to Mr. President and say, Mr. President, see, you just have to step in. And,
let me give you an example of something that's going on right now. That's to say to you that someone is waking up and saying, how will I be seen by posterity?
Yes.
The current redesign of the Naira, I'm sure that there would have been all kinds of pressure to scuttle it. Because there are people who will go to him and say, like some of this was supposed to have happened under the dispensation of some other governor. I mean, maybe some 2 governors back.
Yes.
But someone went back to the sitting president at the time and said, Oga, this thing you're about to do is going to affect our people. And then the following day, a press briefing that had been put in place to announce the project was cancelled. Well, maybe that's not to the knowledge of everybody, but it was cancelled. And I'm talking about some many years back.
Oh yes, I think yes, I remember.
So many years.
Soludo?
Correct.
Yes.
So, but what we're saying is that right now he has agreed to it. You would notice that the same kind of reactionary position was the posture was taken by a minister in this government. When after the announcement, whether a day after the announcement, she came out and said she's not aware. Now, why would she not be aware of such a very crucial program? It's probably because they have understood that she's probably going to be one of the persons who will stand against it, and so they did it outside of her. So, having said that, I'm saying that to say that if Buhari would go ahead with this redesign, he's conscious that time is not on his side. He's conscious that there's posterity. He's conscious that history has to judge him and could judge him either way, either negatively or positively. And nobody will, in his elements, agree to be judged negatively. And I think that he's at that point right now where he's really thinking, what will I be credited with? And so he'll be credited with this Naira redesign, for example. And so I think that in the same vein, he will want to ensure that the legacy that he promised concerning free and fair elections holds. Because if it were not free and fair elections, he himself wouldn't have come to power.
Yes, but because before this Electoral Act came into law, the Electoral Bill came into law, that is now an act.
Yes.
But don't forget that we had the first bill that was sent, he didn't assign to it.
Yes.
The second bill was almost going the same way. It was just 2 days before that he now assented to it, giving a clause that some sessions should be removed. So, given that scenario and him now saying he wants to live a free and fair election, I don't know.
Have you noticed that this Mr. President puts himself even above his party? Listen, in the first time when they signed the not too young to run bill, do you remember that he said, yes, he agrees to it, but it should not come into force until the next election, something like that.
Okay.
So now I'm saying to you that insofar as he is not involved in this election, his interest is covered. And I think that he's going to, I don't know where it comes from, but I have a very strong belief that he's going to stand by his words. Because if he can do 1, 2, 3 things now to put his name in the sands of time, in the golden sands of time, he will do it, because he looks at it also. He will look at it. He's a human being. No matter who surrounds him, they are not going to take the flak. Those people who are advising him and maybe misadvising him are not the ones who are going to take the credit or the flak for wrongdoing. So he needs to know that the buck stops at his desk, and that whatever comes of it, he will suffer it. Either suffer it enjoy it, whether it's glory, whether it's disdain.
Yeah, you are right, because given the Edo State scenario, you could have just said no.
No, exactly.
Security, but he ensured that there was a free level playing ground.
I think that is going to go through
all
with
the
that.
Parties.
Yeah, I think it's going to go through with that.
Yes.
I think so.
So let's go on a break. When we come back, we still have 2 more papers to review on our menu, and that is The Nation and Vanguard newspaper. Don't go away.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Inside Nigeria, keeping you informed on what matters.
Welcome back. This is Inside Nigeria on Leadership Television. With me in the studio is a public affairs analyst, Dayo Omogu, and I'm Winifred Ubebo. Dayo, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we still have other papers for review this morning. Let's look at The Nation. The Nation says NNPCL marketers differ over lingering petrol scarcity. NNPCL marketers differ over lingering petrol scarcity. Queues lengthens in Lagos, Abuja, others. NNPCL marketers differ over lingering petrol scarcity. Queues lengthen in Lagos, Abuja, others. That's the same story we have on The Guardian. Let's see Guardian. The Guardian newspaper. The Guardian says decline in oil gas output hampers growth amid recession fears. Decline in oil gas output hampers growth amid recession fears. Nigeria in technical recession, say experts.
I do not know what the back and forth is about this scarcity or whatever.
Honestly,
I do not think that there's any plausible reason why this is happening. I think that by now, I'm sorry, but I think that by now, the nation should have heard about people who have lost their jobs. It's taking too long. I mean, if you check, this was one of the real reasons, one of the cardinal reasons for which APC was voted into power.
yes.
They talked about, you recall, one of the things that worked against Jonathan very seriously was the 2012 attempt to
The abduction of the Chibok girls.
No, that was 2014. But in 2012, he tried to talk about the
oil subsidy.
Yeah, exactly,
the
oil subsidy.
regulation of the oil
Yes.
sector.
So that counted against him because it resulted in
So much so that there was a protest march. in
exactly,
Lagos.
and then they used it against him at the Ojota rally, all
Yes,
kinds of things.
rally.
But as soon as this government came into power, you found out that a few months on the line, there was an increase,
Yes.
and nobody, it was strategic, it was timely because
And
you see
even that
they were
protest
riding on the goodwill
was
with
so
which they came
strategic
out of.
that it even forced Jonathan's hand to reduce the pump
Yeah,
price.
exactly.
Can you
Yes,
remember?
he did.
Yes.
Now that same thing that you used to campaign 7 years after, we have not gotten any better. We're still talking about the same things, the same scarcity, the same queues at petrol stations, the same situations. The one that gets me that gets you very worked up and very angry is the fact that you go to a petrol station, there's no fuel in the petrol station, but there are hawkers with petrol in their kegs right in front of the petrol station. And there are law enforcement agents all around the place, and nobody is doing anything to check this. It's an insult.
Yes, and most of these filling stations you see closed during daytime,
and then by night they open.
Yes,
and nobody's talking about that. So there are so many things woven into this problem that needs to be, loosened so that the ordinary Nigerian can at least feel a sense of being in Nigeria. How can we be an oil producing state, the number 6 oil producer, and then we continually, do you hear this kind of stories about other oil producing states? No. So I think that as far as I'm concerned, I'm not interested even in what each party is saying. I'm interested in, can we have fuel, please? Can we please have fuel? It's not as if you are dishing out the fuel for free. It's not free. So you don't have fuel to run your generator, to run your whatever, and then you can't drive around, and then there's no electricity. We were just talking off camera about the situation of electricity in the country.
Terrible.
It's a terrible one. I had to call twice. I had to call a manager I used to know of my area, the ADC in my area, who said, "Oh, it's no longer there. You now give me another number of someone else." All kinds of things put together.
I did the same thing too.
How long are we going to
were
continue?
carrying out maintenance work.
You can imagine.
I asked her, how long is it going to last? And he said 2 weeks. I screamed, the whole 2 weeks.
2 weeks. But in any case, we have always been in it. So 2 weeks, 2 weeks won't kill us. If the 2 weeks will just be 2 weeks. So I'm saying we don't need all this back and forth. We don't need all this excuses, all this talk. We've had enough of talk. We've had enough of people trying to justify what is unjustifiable. We have had enough of being insulted, our sensibilities being. So I think that government should please just sit up and give us. At a time, they said it was the flood. You know, recently that the flood, because of the flood, trucks that were with PMS coming over to this way were cut off. I mean, so where is it the flood again, or is it too much dry land?
The flood finally receded.
Yes, maybe the land is too dry.
But you know, like I said, we know after the flood, they now increased the
they did,
price
yes.
of oil. And as we speak now, it's the same thing. Most filling stations that you see opening in Abuja are actually selling over 220.
That's correct. And
so that is where you see
there's no official
queue. The ones that are selling still maintaining the same price. That is where you have the queue,
the long queues.
But those other ones are selling at a higher rate.
That's it. And there's no official statement. There's nothing. Because you see, again, they also know that there are certain actions, for example, that they should have taken before now if they needed to take them. But this time, it's very difficult to take because it might affect their electoral fortunes.
Yes.
So they're afraid. They're in a quandary. They're in a very dicey situation. And so, for me, your politics is not as important as our lives.
You know, yes, just like what you said, you don't have to come out to announce it. That is the same way they were adding to electricity.
Exactly, without coming very clear cut.
You just see it, you check, you that you were buying lesser units.
Yes, for the same amount of money. So that's what's happening.
That is what's happening. Anyway, we still have another paper to go for our discussion this morning, and the paper's headline story is on health issue, and that is Vanguard. Vanguard newspaper says brain drain. We now have one doctor to 6,400 patients, medical experts. Brain drain. We now have one doctor to 6,400 patients, medical experts say Nigeria in emergency situation. 38.7% of Nigerians suffer health care depreciation, NBS reports, as NMA asks federal government to act fast.
I think in looking at this issue, just envision for a moment 6,400 people around one doctor.
Around one doctor. One doctor is attending to
6,400 people. I mean, I don't even see. We need to. We probably don't understand the kind of emergency we're in.
Standard. It's supposed to be one doctor to 400.
400. I think that's 400.
That's
now, so the 400 is on top of 6,000 now. Now, so what are we really? Do we have governance? You see, when some people say that Nigeria is a failed state, we are quick to say no. We don't like that kind of
don't like that label.
That label. I also don't like that label. But you see, it's not about liking the label. It's about what are the fundamental, what are the statistics available? What are the indicators? If you check the indicators that make a state qualify as failed, if we have those indicators, I mean, so what do you need to begin to argue about? I don't know. We need to really wake up. I sincerely, we need to wake up. If you remember, this president did say that he was not going to go on medical tourism. Do you remember that during the campaign? And yet, he's been the one who's been on medical tourism the most of all the presidents in this country. So it says to us that we're not serious with ourselves, that we're making a joke of very serious matters. And unfortunately, the people also do not take themselves seriously enough to stop this kind of rubbish that's going on. Because how can you say one doctor to 6,000? And don't forget, most of those doctors don't even have the equipment.
Yes.
They don't even have the equipment with which to work. Yes. And then you have 6,400. No equipment. I mean, there's no regular power.
At the time, all the radiotherapy machines that is taking care of cancer patients, treatment, broke down. It was even the only one that was working in a national hospital. And you see that people in the north, all other people in north central, even from Lagos, southwest, they have to come down to come and access just that one machine, and they give them appointments.
No, we have an emergency on our hands. We have an emergency on our hands. Mr. President, we call upon you, please do something about this. Arrest the brain drain. It can be done. It can be done. Look at what we're doing to the education sector, for example. You now want to become one very saintly person. You will not pay for services not rendered. But how many times don't you render service and you get your pay? And then how many times do National Assembly people go on holidays? Half of the time they're on holidays, they're on vacation, and then they get their pay. Nobody's talking about that. But because these people had a trade dispute with you, and then you insist, yes, indeed, if you do not work, you do not get paid. But I think we have a special circumstance in this particular case, and I think that the president should do something about paying those people. Before you know it, the brain drain situation will get complicated, even get worse. So we can't continue like this.
Just last week, the University College Hospital Ibadan also raised the alarm that they've lost 6,000 patients, professionals since 2020 up to now, and they've not been able to fill in the spaces because of the policy, the bottlenecks.
You can imagine that. Yes. So, like I'm saying, it's a huge a problem that needs to be holistically tackled. Please, we should know that even the salaries that people take home does not take them home, and these professionals have opportunity of earning better, of being treated better, of being accorded better, dignity and respect, and so they will continue to go. So if government whatever government needs to do, and cut certain wasteful expenditure and put it where it is very necessary, and please stabilize the nation. We can't afford this.
The first lady also raised their alarm during the first time.
Oh, sure, yes.
That even Panadol, something that
could not be found at the state clinic or something.
Yes.
You can imagine that.
We don't know how far, whether they have forbidden.
No, see, the truth is that those problems have always been that way. It's not as if the money is not allocated, but we know what happens usually. And that's what has been happening. So until we get, and it's very unfortunate, it's a big minus for our current president, because so much hope was on him, and so many Nigerians believed so much in him that it was going to make a huge difference. But what we see is that there's little or no difference. Talk about power, talk about health. The situations have remained largely the same, or even deteriorated. You find out that power, they had about 4,000 plus megawatts handed over to them. They promised they were going to give us about 20,000 megawatts before they left office or something. Right now, I doubt whether we have up to the 4,000 megawatts that we have. And then for the first time, you find grid collapse, national grid collapse. This year alone, we've had about 7 or 8. You can imagine that it had never been in the history of this country. Maybe you have 1 or 2, but then 7 in 1 year. It says a whole lot. Or 8. It says a whole lot about, the performance of the government.
Okay, thank you so much. This is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Inside Nigeria. Viewers, next week Monday is on that day, same time, same station, and we'll have another guest in the house to review and discuss ongoing stories. Dayo, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Winifred, and thank you for listening, viewers, for watching. I'll be here again when they ask me to come.
Next week.
I'm loyal.
Let's do it. So have a beautiful weekend, viewers. Don't forget, security is everybody's business. It's your responsibility to stay safe. Yeah. All the best. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.